Finance Committee will now come to order. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak on items not on today's agenda? Seeing none, we'll go to that first agenda item, Mr. Samario.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Bob Samario, Finance Director, and this is an exciting day for us, hopefully for you too. This marks the kickoff of the budget review process for council and the public. We've spent the last number of months, really starting in October, developing the recommended budget that's going to be presented to council today, later this afternoon. And as you know, the Finance Committee has an important role, we believe, in reviewing certain parts of the budget. And so we're here to kind of go over with you or at least our proposed review schedule for the Finance Committee, and then really ask for your direction as to what else would you might you want to talk about or discuss relevant to the budget. What we've done in the past is we try not to duplicate what we plan to present to the City Council, so each department will present their respective budgets. So we're looking for topics that are kind of outside of that you might want to include in addition to what we presented here. So with that, I'm going to have Michael Pease. He's our budget manager. He is the person that really quarterbacks the entire budget process in a very important role along with his staff. And he does a great job and works lots of hours, but wanted to give him an opportunity at least to kind of show his face, have you see him, and then also just go through this review schedule that we're proposing for you.
Great. Mr. Pease.
Thank you, Mr. Samario. Mr. Chair, committee members. As Mr. Samario was saying, today's a big day for us with the budget filing. Really excited about that, and it marks an important step in the budget development process. It kind of kicks off the whole public review process. This morning, the budget document was formally filed with the city clerk, and this afternoon the City Council will adopt its own public review schedule and schedule of public hearings, as well as receive an overview of the recommended budget from Mr. Samario. So as Mr. Samario was saying, we're here today to review the overhead, which is the Finance Committee budget review schedule, and ask for your input regarding any additional topics you would like to review. The schedule is the same as what was included in your agenda packet, and what I've done is included some additional items that are also scheduled during those respective Finance Committee meetings, so you get the full scope of what is going to occur during that meeting. I also made one small change, which I'll get to as we get into the topics. So as Mr. Samario was saying, the council typically reviews the budget document and each department budget, but the Finance Committee really serves a critical role in delving deeper into the budget and into particular topics, which have typically included the changes in fees and service charges, departmental revenues, key balancing strategies for each of the funds, a review of the reserve balances and reserve policies in the general fund and enterprise funds, and that is what we have included on this proposed schedule. So after I walk through the staff's proposed review schedule, I welcome your discussion and input to approve this and add anything else you would like to take an additional look at. So for the first session on next Tuesday, April 24th, we have a review by Mr. Samario of the multi-year forecast for the general fund and the balancing strategy, including any the measures that were taken to balance that fund. Ms. Tora will also review the non-departmental revenues, including any growth assumptions that were included in the budget. Also during that session, Ms. Tora will review the quarterly investment report for the quarter ending March 31st. The following week, we're proposing the committee to review the impact of the recent dissolution of the redevelopment agency and the impact that has had on the general fund for next year. Also, departments will be here to review the general fund fee changes, including Parks and Recreation, Community Development, and Public Works for like the engineering fees, for example, recreation fees, facility use fees, that sort of thing. And we also have during that meeting the third quarter financial review for the committee. On Tuesday, May 8th, the committee has proposed to review enterprise fund fee changes, including water, wastewater, golf, solid waste, and one item that was not included in your packet, the waterfront department. After further review, staff has identified some fee changes that should be part of that review of enterprise funds, including slip fee changes for next year. For May 15th, Mr. Samario will be back to review citywide reserve balances and policies. And some additional time has been allotted during that meeting for any follow-up items that the Finance Committee would like to cover, including any additional topics that you may add to the review schedule today. The final meeting of the Finance Committee review will be on Tuesday, May 22nd. Which also includes some additional time for those follow-up items, and then also any necessary staff recommended adjustments that we would bring back to the committee. It's not uncommon during the budget process, from the point of budget filing all the way through the public review process, to have some changes, new information, things that come to light that we would like to roll into the budget, and so we'd bring back those to the committee for review and approval before forwarding them to the council, along with any additional items that the Finance Committee would like to recommend to the City Council to include in the budget. So with that, I would like to turn it over to the committee for any discussion and additional items you would like to include.
Okay. Questions or comments, committee members?
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Murillo.
Thank you, Mr. Peace. This is quite a calendar here. You've got quite a taskmaster that you have here. When you say under May 1st proposed departmental fee changes, you said Public Works, Parks. So what were the other departments?
Community Development, Parks and Recreation, Public Works, the general fund fees, like for engineering, for example.
That's what my question. Yeah. So the Community Development Department, if somebody wants to build a project or build a fence or something, they have to pay fees. Those fees may go up?
Well, that's what they would cover during the meeting, is that community development would come in and discuss any changes to planning fees or building and safety fees that are proposed for next year. So they would look at all their fees, and any of the fees that would be changing, they would bring that to the committee during that meeting.
Seems important. I'm trying to get you to talk about it in case the public is watching on TV and they go, oh, what are they talking about? And I'm glad that Mr. Smithwick with the Daily newspaper is here. And we need more public interested in these. These are important topics, important fee increases. People should know.
I should probably also mention that there have been 2 binders of proposed fee changes that have been put into the council reading file. And for public review, we also have a copy of those proposed fee changes in the city clerk's office and the finance department. Also, the budget document will be available at 2 p.m. today on the city's website, and it will also be a hard copy will be available in the city clerk's office, finance department, and the central and east side libraries for public review.
Thank you.
Mr. White?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 2 things. One is I would appreciate hearing staff talk to us at some point how we're doing on funding maintenance. In other words, going back to the infrastructure report, and there's a set of comments in there about expressing concern about not fully funding maintenance, and I'd like to hear how you see us doing in this budget. And then secondly, it's just a more of a logistical thing, and that is, since I am a slip holder, if we could be talking if the slip fee changes could be put as a second item or a final item for one of these meetings, then I wouldn't have to be bouncing in and out of the room. Thank you.
Just a quick question. Is the schedule of proposed fee changes also available online?
Yes, it will
Okay.
be available on the same page as
Great.
the rest of the recommended budget.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Any other questions? I believe that's it. I was going to suggest the infrastructure discussion as well, but
And, Mr. Chairman and Committee Member White, just as a clarification, You mentioned funding of maintenance. Are you talking about the bigger issue of how we fund infrastructure projects, or just sort of on our ongoing maintenance requirements and needs?
I was going to bring that infrastructure report with me so we could refer it straight to it. My recollection is that the infrastructure report of, how long ago was that? 8 years ago, something like that?
About 4 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
3 or 4 years
Fewer,
ago.
okay, 5 years ago, a few years ago, separated out maintaining basically our buildings. I don't think it was even talking about our streets, but I believe it was talking about our buildings, and saying we're coming up X amount short. If I were to pull a number out, I think it was $600,000 a year kind of thing short, obviously accumulating over time. So perhaps just go back to that report, look at that section of it. As with our other areas, there's a cumulative deficit, and just how are we doing relative to that in this budget?
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
And I think part of that is a discussion of what the long-term strategy is. Obviously, we're having to deal with this sooner than we would have had to with the RDA dissolution, but it was a problem that we were going to come up against sooner or later anyway.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Thank you.
All right. I guess we're adjourned. Thank you very much.